Hello my fellow coaster enthusiasts and welcome to Coaster Pack. Now I am well aware of the fact that it has been a while since I last uploaded, but I'm back and kicking things into high gear with my top 25 favorite roller coasters. The last time I made one of these videos was almost 2 years ago on my old channel, Parker's Park Reviews, and since then I've gotten the chance to visit Pennsylvania, Georgia, Illinois, and even several parks across Europe. So I am very excited to update this list for 2023. So without any further ado, let's jump right into my top 25 favorite roller coasters. Number 25 is Leviathan at Canada's Wonderland. This is the most recent credit on my list, and it was a very unique experience. After being closed all day, the incredible maintenance at Canada's Wonderland managed to open it up for the last few hours, and I snagged one front row night ride in 40-degree weather. Now, despite the colder temperatures, Leviathan still excelled in the pacing department, ripping through every airtime-filled camelback and intense valley. While there is a common complaint that Leviathan is a little bit too short, I still felt satisfied at the end of it. And even though my one-of-a-kind experience might make me a little bit biased, I still think that Leviathan fits in nicely at number 25. My number 24 is Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. While it has been a while since I've ridden this, and I've heard it's gotten a lot rougher since then, to my memory, Outlaw Run is a very smooth and intense RMC with a diverse layout featuring a plethora of airtime moments, hang-time-filled inversions, most notably the double barrel roll finale, and of course, a layout that utilizes the terrain to perfection. While I would still love to get another ride, Outlaw Run had an addictive quality that makes it a good fit for this list. Sliding into the number 23 spot is Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia. This B&M Hyper is a very polarizing one in the coaster community, with some saying that it is far and away the best B&M Hyper, and others saying that it falls short due to the roughness. And I definitely fall into the former. Goliath does everything that you want a B&M Hyper to do, and then some, with surprisingly smooth track work, camelbacks with excellent floater airtime, one of the most intense helixes period in my opinion, and a rapid-fire airtime hill finale that almost compares to number 22, Magnum XL 200 at Cedar Point. And speaking of polarizing rides, I have never seen a ride that divides the coaster community quite like Magnum does. There's a large group of people who think that the transitions are janky and that the airtime brings more pain than pleasure, but I strongly disagree. I think that Magnum runs very well for its age, has an underrated first half, a surprising float of airtime and positives, and, of course, has one of the greatest finales of all time that never fails to leave me speechless and laughing on the brake run. Magnum might have been the first hypercoaster, but it still holds up as one of the best. Taking us to Europe for the first time in this video is number 21, Let Coaster at Legendia. If you were to ask me what the most well-balanced coaster I've ever ridden is, there's a good chance that the answer could be Let Coaster. It's not very often that you find a ride that has such a perfect blend of positives, negatives, and laterals that's consistent through the whole experience. Not to mention the ridiculously smooth tracking that was a pleasant surprise for my first new wave Vekoma. And while the intensity of Let Coaster may have been oversold for me, after a few rides I came to appreciate this ride for all that it is, and I think that it serves as a great example of what Vekoma can do. Number 20 is perhaps the most iconic coaster of all time, and it's Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Millennium Force has been catching a lot of flack in recent years, with many dubbing it Millennium Forceless, but I think that this couldn't be further from the truth. From an enthusiast perspective, Millennium Force is solid, with good positives in the overbanks and decent floater airtime over the camelback's first drop and speed hill. But the thing that pushes it over the edge is the incredible sense of speed and re-rideability. There's a reason that Millennium Force is so well known and well liked, and it's because of its accessibility to both enthusiasts and the general public. Millie is a legend, and it deserves a spot in my top 25. The Golden Ticket Award winner for Best Wooden Coaster for 5 straight years is number 19, Phoenix at Knoebels. With this much hype surrounding it, I was worried that Phoenix wouldn't live up to expectations, especially when taking into consideration the fact that other YouTubers, like Coaster Studios, think that it's one of the most overrated wooden coasters in the world. But I am pleased to report that Phoenix is still an awesome ride. Phoenix wouldn't be the same without its buzz bar restraints that allow every airtime moment to feel entirely unhinged and out of control. Another important aspect of Phoenix is how well taken care of it is. It's hard to believe that a roller coaster that's both relocated and that dates back to 1947 could be so smooth and re-rideable. Every train comes back to the station full of laughing people, and that's why it's hard to deny it of a top 20 ranking. Speaking of rides that feel entirely unhinged, number 18 is Intimidator 305 at King's Dominion. Now, I talked about Millennium Force's sense of speed earlier, but I-305 takes that feeling and augments it to the max. Unlike Millennium Force, Intimidator 305 is not very re-rideable, with the general public apparently steering clear as seen by its generally empty queue line. But enthusiasts, well, they can't get enough of its low-to-the-ground layout and blackout-inducing elements that can invoke fear into even the toughest among them. Despite sometimes being a challenge to ride, I-305's sheer power puts it on most enthusiast bucket lists, and the number 18 spot on this list. Number 17 stays in the same park with Twisted Timbers. If you want airtime, Twisted Timbers has got airtime. Every element serves to toss you out of your seat in one way or another. Even the inversions lift you out of your seat while simultaneously tossing you around the train. While this may make the ride seem like a one-trick pony, every element still manages to feel different than the one before, with airtime hills that can be linear, overbanked, or outerbanked, all sequenced in a way that feels natural yet still out of control. All of this makes Twisted Timbers a riot of negative G's that really complement I-305's positives, making a stellar 1-2 punch for King's Dominion. Number 16 very well be the most controversial pick on this list, and it's Jurassic World Velocicoaster at Universal's Islands of Adventure. It's hard to deny that Velocicoaster's theming is top-notch, and elements like the second launch, top hat, and Mosasaurus roll are absolutely incredible, but there's a reason that I can't put it any higher than this. While it does have those three aforementioned standout elements, nothing else that it does really stands out to me. The first half meanders, it's lacking in positive G's, and the theming is inconsistent throughout the whole ride experience. Now, I know that beggars can't be choosers, and that if I ride it again, it will more than likely earn a higher ranking. But as it stands right now, Velocicoaster just misses out on my top 15. Number 15 is what's commonly considered Velocicoaster's sister coaster, Taran at Fantasialand. And because the coasters are so similar, I'm just going to run down 3 reasons that Taran beats out Velocicoaster for me. First of all, Taran holds its speed better than Velocicoaster does. While some YouTubers like Canopy Coaster criticized Taran's pacing, on the day that I visited, it never slowed down and provided a more fluid ride experience than Velocicoaster. Second, Taran has better positive G's. I don't recall ever graying out on Velocicoaster, but it was a common occurrence in Taran's turns and overbanks. And finally, Taran's theming is consistent throughout the whole ride experience. Even if Velocicoaster might be a better ride than Taran if all the theming was removed from both, Taran's theming is the best in the world in my opinion, and it beats Velocicoaster in that department as well. So when push comes to shove, Taran makes my top 15, and Velocicoaster does not. The unpopular opinions just keep on coming with number 14, which is Lightning Rod at Dollywood. I'm not quite as high on Lightning Rod as some others are. It does have incredible pacing, great use of the terrain, and it used to have a launch lift hill, which added a lot to the experience. I'm a little bit nervous on how it'll be without it. But anyway, the thing that holds Lightning Rod back for me is the short and repetitive layout. The short layout wouldn't bother me if it made good use of every moment, but it really doesn't with 2 back-to-back twists and shouts, plus the quad down, with each down essentially providing the exact same sensation. With that being said, I still absolutely love Lightning Rod, and there's a reason that it's in my top 15 in the first place. Number 13 is Maverick at Cedar Point. Believe it or not, this used to be my number 1 way back when, and it's not hard to see why. Maverick is an Intamin Blitz coaster, which is a fitting name because Maverick really is a blitz of elements that'll either toss you out of your seat, crush you into your seat, or toss you around your seat, making it really hard to catch your breath. Maverick really is an anomaly because it manages to be insanely intense while still being addictive and accessible to the general public. Don't be fooled by Maverick's small size because it packs a big punch that never fails to leave me speechless when it's all over. Number 12 is one of my new credits for this year, Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. Looking at it, I thought this could be one of the most overrated coasters I've ever ridden. It is a Morgan after all. But it ended up being one of the most underrated coasters I've ever ridden. The Phantom is truly a full package experience, complete with minimalistic restraints, positive G's that make you lose your vision, the legendary second drop into a ravine, and one of the great finales of all time. But perhaps the most surprising thing about Phantom's Revenge was the smoothness. Steel Force at Dorney Park was surprisingly rough on my visit, despite what I heard other people say, so I expected the same from Phantom's Revenge, as it's also a Morgan. But this aero conversion manages to be one of the smoothest coasters I've ever ridden. After getting off the Phantom, you have to get right back in line, and it's for this reason that it deserves the number 12 spot on this list. Number 11 is Fury 325 at Carowinds, and the Golden Ticket Awards have rated this the best steel coaster in the world for 7 straight years. This fact alone goes to show that Fury truly is a GP favorite, and it's not hard to see why. Fury is pure fun. Despite not having the most forceful layout of all time, it's impossible not to enjoy yourself on Fury given its smooth track work, fun flow to airtime, length, and sense of speed. While some may argue that Fury is not all that it's cracked up to be, it's still the best Giga Coaster in my eyes, and it's a shame that I couldn't find room for it in my top 10. Kicking off our top 10 is Hyperion at Energylandia. I know that I said that Fury is my favorite Giga Coaster, but Hyperion is my favorite ride that feels like a Giga Coaster. Hyperion's sense of speed is comparable to that of a Giga Coaster, and the intensity is too. Hyperion's first half consists of large elements like a camelback and a dive loop, which offer ridiculous sustained ejector airtime and laterals, respectively. Then the second half hugs the ground with intense positive Gs and switchbacks, kind of like a mini i305. But unlike i305, this section also has airtime. Hyperion has the addictiveness and re-rideability of Fury, but with the added element of ejector airtime and strong positive Gs. And this is what gives it the edge and the honor of starting my top 10. Number 9 is Skyrush, and if you know me, you know that Skyrush is a guilty pleasure of mine. Are the restraints bad? Sure. Do I care? Not at all. In fact, I think that the restraints almost add to the intensity and demonic nature of Skyrush's layout. So let's talk about that demonic layout. First of all, the cable lift hill absolutely rips you to the top, giving you a teaser of what's to come, and it leads into a legendary first drop. The first drop on Skyrush is my favorite of all time. It starts with a ridiculous ejector pop, but then a kink halfway down somehow launches you even further out of your seat. Then once you hit the valley, you're treated to a bunch of turns and airtime hills, which, granted, do make the layout repetitive, but it's so unbelievably intense that it doesn't bother me at all. Skyrush is a non-stop display of power that I just can't get enough of. But Skyrush just missed out on being my top-rated Intamin, as that honor goes to number 8, Expedition GeForce at Holiday Park. Everyone that rides this agrees that the airtime is incredible, but I think that people undersell just how incredible that airtime really is. I think that Expedition GeForce has the best raw airtime of any coaster out there, not to mention the best finale of all time with those 4 consecutive camelbacks. People also criticize the overbanks for being forceless, but much like Millennium Force, they have a decent kick that spices up the layout with some positive Gs. Expedition GeForce's name is extremely fitting, because if you want a ride that demonstrates pure G-force, then it's the ride for you. If you thought the unpopular opinions were through, then you'd be wrong, because I'm swinging one more at you with number 7, Iron Guazi at Busch Gardens, Tampa. While many would rank this as their number 1, I don't quite give it that much praise. Iron Guazi has an intense layout that throws some truly ridiculous forces at you. I particularly love the outer bank, the wave turn, the first drop, and of course, the death roll. Iron Guazi also might have the most relentless layout of any RMC. So why the low ranking? 2 reasons. It's short, and there are a few elements in the second half that just don't do much of anything, most notably the 0G stall and the overbank. While these are definitely nitpicks, when it comes down to the top 10, little things can put you behind or ahead, and both of these issues with Iron Guazi are fixed with number 6, which is Untamed at Wallaby Holland. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Untamed is small but mighty, and it boasts some of the most intense ejector airtime from any RMC from my experience. It's important to note that Untamed is the RMC with the most inversions with 5, but it doesn't feel like an inversion-centric ride at all. Having said that though, the double inverting stall that kicks off the ride is one of my favorite inversions for its weightless sensation. As for the rest of the ride, it feels like a mini Steel Vengeance with its non-stop barrage of ejector airtime that may or may not leave bruises on your thighs. I've seen lots of people rank Untamed in the bottom half of their RMCs, but for me, it's up at the top, on par with the big boys that are coming up later. But before we get to them, I would just like to take a moment to remind you to like this video and subscribe to Coaster Pack. It costs nothing and it goes a long way in helping out the channel. But anyway, it's time to unveil my top 5. Number 5 is FLY at Fantasialand. This ride is very hard to explain, so bear with me here. If I had to describe FLY in one word, that word would be surreal. Parking yourself in the front row and allowing the ride to immerse you into the land of Rookburg is a truly unforgettable experience. While B&M flyers do simulate the feeling of flight, FLY takes this feeling to a whole new level that's almost indescribable. But what can be described are the surprising positive G's and the odd sensation of airtime while in the flying position. While rides like Phoenix and Let Coaster have made waves in the coaster industry, I believe that FLY is Vekoma's true magnum opus. Number 4 is the Voyage at Holiday World. If I were to count isolated ride experiences as whole rankings, then a front row trimless night ride on the Voyage in a train full of other coaster enthusiasts would easily take the top spot. But if we're only counting normal operating days, then the Voyage slides in right here at number 4 because it's still absolutely incredible. The Voyage takes Out of Control to a whole new extreme with a relentless layout in the woods that throws all the forces at you seemingly all at once. While this is all well and good, what makes the Voyage so incredible is its sheer size. The Voyage has a whopping 6,442 feet of track, making it the longest wooden coaster in the world with just one lift hill. And believe me when I say that it feels every bit as long as the stat suggests. That, combined with its power and generally smooth tracking, makes the Voyage truly a legendary experience. Spoiler alert, my top 3 is entirely made up of RMCs, starting with Air Force 1 at Fun Spot Atlanta. If you want a ride that packs in non-stop ejector airtime and practically nothing else, then Air Force 1 is the ride for you. This layout does not hold back, as every single element tries to launch you to Mars with pure power and aggression. Whether you're looking at the first drop, any of the 4 inversions, or, of course, the infamously demonic quad down, Air Force 1 never gives you one moment to catch your breath, and by the time it's all over, you will have no idea what on earth just happened to your body. In my opinion, Air Force 1 is the poster child of what Joe Draves can do. Number 2 is Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, and believe me, I am just as tired of hearing about Steel Vengeance as you guys are. We all know that Steel Vengeance has the most airtime of any coaster in the world, is ridiculously long, and has some of the best and most unique elements of any coaster out there. There's a reason that everyone loves it, and I love it too, so I won't bore you with the deets. Just know that it's here at number 2. And finally, my favorite roller coaster in the whole world is Zadra at Energylandia. Zadra does everything that I want a coaster to do. It's well-rounded, it's intense, its layout is complete, it has incredible pacing, countless standout elements, a queue line that never ends. Well, maybe not that last thing, but otherwise, Zadra is the closest thing to perfect that a ride can be. And I have a whole nother video that goes into all the details if you're interested. I know that it's not every day that you get out to Poland, but I think that it's worth it just for this one incredible roller coaster. Phew, that video was a doozy, so I hope you enjoyed watching it more than I enjoyed making it. But jokes aside, I would love to hear your input in the comments. What did you love? What did you hate? And even feel free to share your entire top 25 too, because I'd love to see it. Remember to have a great day, and most importantly, keep on coasting.